course, if Bernie Sanders had won the Democratic nomination, he would have absolutely destroyed the general election, as polls did state. If you recall, there were polls where Hillary Clinton and Hillary barely had like a small marginal lead on Trump, while Bernie was absolutely blowing him out the fucking water. And so had he gotten the Dem nomination, he would have absolutely destroyed the competition in Donald Trump. Remember, Trump actually backed out of a debate with Bernie Sanders, if you guys remember. If you guys were following along the campaign trail in 2016, and during the primary, you would remember that Bernie Sanders challenged him to a debate, and Trump pussied out. He didn't end up showing up. But here is a great poll. It says, majority of Democrats want candidates to be more like Bernie Sanders, poll finds. It says Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders might have lost his 2016 bid for the Democratic presidential nomination, but he certainly won a number of supporters along the way. To wit, a new poll released Wednesday by YouGov showed that a majority of Democrats want candidates in 2018 to be more like the independent Democratic Socialist candidate. The polling firm asked, quote, do you wish the candidates who run for Congress this year will be more or less like Bernie Sanders? A full 57% of Democratic respondents said more like Bernie Sanders in response. 16% said less, while 27% responded not sure. That's a big deal, by the way, because that means the group of people that say they're not sure is larger than the group that says they want them to be less like Bernie Sanders, which is huge if true, which it is true. Not surprisingly, Sanders was less popular with conservatives. Whoa. Only 13% of Republicans said they wanted the candidates to be more like Sanders, while 74% said less. Independents were split. 27% said more like Sanders, while 35% said less, and 38% not sure. So I'm actually surprised about the independent numbers, but I think because I think independents lean more left. So I think when it comes down to voting, they're actually going to vote left. And independents are actually the biggest chunk of people in the United States when it comes to voting. But obviously the 38% that's not sure, I think that if they were able to know more on what it actually comes down to the election, they're going to say they want him to be more like Bernie Sanders. But honestly, if you just have left populism, as a campaign, you're going to win. So if you have a Bernie Sanders platform where you're saying, we want to bring the jobs back, we want to have a living wage, and we want to have Medicare for all and have free college tuition, all of those kinds of things, you're going to win the election. And so I'm very hopeful. I repeat, I'm very hopeful that he will run in 2020, because at this point in 2020, the biggest obstacle is not winning anything, really. The biggest obstacle is just getting Bernie Sanders to run. Because think about it like this. If Bernie Sanders doesn't run, who's going to run in his place? You might respond Nina Turner, Tulsi Gabbard, someone like that. The problem is we don't know if they're a surefire win. In fact, I think if either of those people run, Joe Biden, if he runs, he's going to beat them. But I think Bernie Sanders will be able to beat Joe Biden, especially if there's another corporate Democrat running on top of Joe Biden, whether it be probably Kamala Harris is who it's going to end up being, and they'll end up splitting the vote, and then Bernie Sanders, because Elizabeth Warren's not going to run again. She's not going to run. She's made it clear she doesn't want to run for president, and it's clear she does not want to really have anything to do with that. So Bernie Sanders needs to run. If he runs, he's going to win this. He has it in the bag. Now you may say, what if the Democratic Party cheats him? The only way the Democratic Party can cheat Bernie Sanders out of a victory is if they literally go in and switch the votes, which would be an unprecedented level of cheating that would leave one of the biggest scars in electoral, modern history. And I don't think that they'll be willing to risk that, no matter the odds. But no matter what they try to do at this point, whether it be burying debates or whatever, it's not going to be enough, because the main problem with Bernie Sanders was name recognition, because you have this random guy who's a senator from Vermont who's not running for president, and who knows this random senator from Vermont? Not that many people. Now, a fuck ton of people know Bernie Sanders, because he's essentially the de facto leader of the Democratic Party. So no matter what the Democratic Party attempts to do, he's going to emerge victorious should he run. So we need Bernie Sanders to run.